So a federal district court in Texas issued a nationwide injunction which blocks the ATF's pistol brace rule in its entirety. But there are multiple cases going on right now which can throw a huge wrench in this order. So we need to talk about what's going to happen going forward with pistol braces. Now, before we jump into what's happening with pistol braces, I want to ask you guys for a huge favor, and it's something that I don't like to do often, but something recently came up. A lot of you guys are aware that the podcast is happening. It's available on all audio formats, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, essentially anywhere you can search for the Armed Scholar podcast and you can find it. Now, recently I had a discussion with a national podcast network, and the discussion was about them trying to help, the podcast and trying to get the 2A news out to more people on the podcast format. And I was told that they didn't think that a 2A podcast was viable, that a lot of people wouldn't be interested in that. So I want to ask you guys a huge favor. If you guys listen to podcasts and you also follow this YouTube channel, go over to Apple Podcasts, go over to Spotify. I will also leave links down below, and go follow the podcast. My goal with the podcast is to reach 50,000 downloads per episode, and I think we can do that, especially with the YouTube channel here and the community and following that we've built here. So I will leave links down below to the podcast if you would like to support it. But regardless, thank you guys so much for all of your help. So like I mentioned in the intro, there's a lot we need to discuss in relation to the recent district court injunction, which blocked the ATF's pistol brace rule nationwide. The case we're going to be talking about is Brito versus the ATF, and the order that was recently issued by Judge Matthew Kaczmarek. Now, last week, Judge Kaczmarek issued a preliminary injunction which blocked the pistol brace rule in its entirety while the case is proceeding forward. This decision by Judge Kaczmarek springboarded off of a recent decision by Judge Reed O'Connor in the Mock v. Garland pistol brace case. Now that multiple days have passed, there has been some interesting developments in other pistol brace cases which really identify and kind of shine a light on how this whole issue is going to proceed forward. The Brito case involved a granting of a preliminary injunction. A preliminary injunction is a temporary form of relief that remains in place only until the case is fully decided on the merits of all the arguments. So this order in Brito blocks the enforcement of the pistol brace rule only until the Brito case is fully decided. But the important thing to keep in mind with the Brito case is that the decision there was based primarily on what is going on in Mock v. Garland, the prior decision in that case, and the prior decision by the Fifth Circuit also in Mock. That means that the Brito case will be inherently tied together with the Mock case going forward, along with other pistol brace cases that are in the Texas district courts, and then also in the Fifth Circuit. And I think the ATF's recent strategy decision in the Mock pistol brace case shines a huge light on what the ATF is going to do going forward in the Brito case. Now, originally, Mock v. Garland, the federal district court Judge Reed O'Connor denied a preliminary injunction request and denied FBC's request. Judge O'Connor, in that original opinion, did not believe that there was a likelihood of success on the merits, so he ruled in favor of the ATF. Well, then that decision was appealed up to the Fifth Circuit, and the Fifth Circuit reviewed the case and found that the plaintiffs should have been granted the injunction, especially on their APA claims. The Fifth Circuit decision found that the plaintiffs did show a likelihood of success on the merits, which is one of the main factors to get an injunction. The Fifth Circuit found that the ATF went beyond their statutory authority, specifically when they violated the APA by modifying the rule drastically from the proposed rule to the ultimate final rule, which we now live under. The Fifth Circuit then remanded the case back down to Judge O'Connor. They remanded the Mock case back down to Judge O'Connor for him to redecide the pistol brace injunction. One of the critical things with the remand to Judge O'Connor was that the plaintiffs were imported and given the main factor, which is the likelihood of success on the merits. All Judge O'Connor was going to decide going forward on a redecision was whether the three remaining factors were also present. And on re-review, Judge O'Connor granted the injunction, which protected FBC and their members. He did deny a nationwide injunction, but he did extend the protection for FBC and their members. Now, that was the first major pistol brace win, the first major preliminary injunction win, and then just last week, we got the second major decision, which is the Brito case, and the Brito case sprung board off of what happened in Mock and issued a nationwide injunction under the same rationale. Now with the Mock and Brito preliminary injunctions, the question is, what is the ATF going to do going forward? What is going to be the response after losing both of these cases? On the one hand, the ATF can appeal the Brito nationwide injunction up to the Fifth Circuit and also ask for a stay of the nationwide injunction. The odds, however, in my opinion, are not really in the ATF's favor, especially since the Fifth Circuit already has found that the pistol brace rule violated the APA and there is a likelihood of success on the merits in favor of the plaintiffs. So any request for a stay will likely be denied by the Fifth Circuit. And then that means that the ATF could ultimately try to go to the Supreme Court and ask for an emergency stay from the Supreme Court and try to get the Supreme Court to step in. Recently, the ATF has had success. They've been very successful in getting 2 different stays in the Vanderstock ATF frames receivers case. So again, that is a viable option that the ATF could try to do. In that recent case, Vanderstock, the Supreme Court issued a 5-4 emergency stay in favor of the ATF, and they stayed the nationwide vacatur of the frames and receivers rule. Again, a very similar kind of situation, but Vanderstock was an ultimate merits decision. It was a motion for summary judgment, in contrast to what's going on right now in Brito and Mock, which are preliminary injunctions. That recent stay may embolden the ATF to try to get the same type of stay on the nationwide pistol brace injunction, so that is one path the ATF may go down. However, there is another path that seems a little bit more likely right now, especially because of how all these cases interplay with one another. Now, remember the Brito case, the Mock case, all of these cases are not happening in a vacuum. They are all playing off of one another. After the ATF lost most recently in the Mock v. Garland case, the ATF appears to have decided not to appeal that preliminary injunction. It's likely because they know any appeal and a stay request will be denied by the Fifth Circuit because of what the Fifth Circuit has said prior on pistol braces. Instead, in Mock, the ATF and plaintiffs are proceeding forward in the district court in front of Judge O'Connor on cross motions for summary judgment. That means that instead of going through the whole appeals process again in the Fifth Circuit, the parties are going to battle it out right now in the district court and ask for Judge O'Connor to issue a final merits decision on the pistol brace rule. So the ATF in Mock is not appealing the preliminary injunction. Instead, they're moving forward on a motion for summary judgment. And there is also the Texas gun rights pistol brace case, which was also ruled on by Judge O'Connor. In that other case, Judge O'Connor issued another limited injunction protecting members of a different 2A organization in AGR. Recently, in that case, instead of filing an appeal, the ATF decided not to file an appeal to the Fifth Circuit. Instead, both of the parties submitted a joint stipulation, and essentially they told Judge O'Connor that they want that case, the NAGR case, to be completely put on hold until the judge there, Judge O'Connor, decides on Mock and the cross motions for summary judgment. So in the Mock pistol brace case and the Texas gun rights pistol brace case, the ATF has decided not to appeal the injunctions. They have decided not to go to the Fifth Circuit. Instead, they're moving forward in the lower courts. Since this Brito nationwide injunction is also based on the Mock decision, there is a high likelihood that the ATF will decide not to appeal and instead move forward on cross motions for summary judgment in the case, or also they could ask to be put on hold until Mock is resolved, again because Brito relied heavily on the Mock rationale. So there are 2 very distinct and different paths that the ATF may go down right now in the Brito case. They can appeal to the Fifth Circuit, knowing that they will lose any stay request, but hope that the Supreme Court will grant an emergency stay like they did in Vanderstock. The other option is to just move forward in the lower court like they have already done and kind of conceded in the Mock v. Garland case and also in the Texas gun rights NAGR pistol brace case. Right now, in my mind, I think it's a close call on what the ATF will do. The ATF still has plenty of time to file an appeal. They get, I believe, up to 60 days to file an appeal to the Fifth Circuit. But I think because the injunction in Brito is a nationwide injunction, I'm leaning slightly towards the ATF still trying to file an appeal to the Fifth Circuit, trying to get an emergency stay from the Supreme Court because they cannot let a nationwide injunction sit. Anytime there's been a nationwide injunction or nationwide vacatur, the ATF has responded by filing appeals. So I don't know if they will necessarily deviate in this case, especially because the relief was a nationwide injunction. But regardless, I also want to remind everyone that we still have those membership protections regardless, even if the nationwide decision is stayed. Those membership protections are likely not going to change anytime soon. And then also any stay of the Brito injunction on that nationwide injunction likely will also have to take into account and likely exempt anyone who maybe came into possession of a brace pistol as a result of the Brito decision. Because of how it was a nationwide injunction, people are likely becoming in possession of brace pistols, and so the court would need to take that into account. Think of the similar situation and similar protections that happened in California for California gun owners when the whole Freedom Week magazine issue happened. There was a lot of exemptions that played out by the court after the fact, saying if you came into possession of magazines because of Freedom Week, you can still lawfully possess them and have them and use them. So something similar could also happen because of the Brito case. So the Brito case was a huge win and a nationwide injunction on the pistol brace rule was issued, but this is something we definitely need to be watching closely because going forward, there are 2 very distinct routes that the ATF can take, which will drastically impact the legality of brace pistols going forward. And so again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you have all notifications on, just in case anything changes. I will try to notify you guys as fast as possible. Also, if you guys like this video and like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. Also, I want to just ask everybody to double check your subscription because YouTube loves to unsubscribe people all the time. And then also, I just want to mention that, if you listen to podcasts, go check out the links down below. I will have it in the pinned comment and also in the description section, or you can just search for the Armed Scholar Podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcast. It should pop up. Follow, listen to those podcasts so we can prove the mainstream media, the national media wrong, that there is a lot of interest in the Second Amendment and our right to keep and bear arms. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.